Welcome to Spiritual Conversations. Today is Friday in Australia anyway, and in Darwin, in the top end where I am, it's just after 8 a.m. and a lovely, humid, wet season day. And today's topic on Spiritual Conversation is who inspires you? Another way to ask that question is, I suppose, where do you draw your inspiration from? It may not be a who, it may be a what even, I suppose, for who inspires you or what inspires you. And I'm joined by Ben. And Ben, you introduce yourself. I don't need to.
Hi, I am Vin from Vintuitive. I'm down in Adelaide, South Australia. Good to be here.
Yeah. And very happy to have just met Alicia. And Alicia, tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, everyone. I'm a business consultant, like I was saying earlier, where I teach entrepreneurs how to generate money in their business.
Yeah, fantastic. And so, Alicia, were you a life coach first before you were a business coach?
Yes.
Okay. And why did you move into business coaching?
Well, I started off as a life coach because mentoring and guiding women, I believe, is just my born purpose. I cannot do anything else. It's something that I would definitely do for free, and that was a problem. I was doing it for free. Business, however, is my passion. It's something that I love. I believe that we're all born to be great at what we are, the skills that we have acquired internally. And business is just something that's easy for me. And generating profit, I've developed into the skill of goal oriented and accomplishing your goals as I help women. And I said to myself, okay, these are the two things: a purpose and a passion. I had to make it work. So I still mentor women for free, but I push my professional life as a business coach because that's how it's going to maintain me to grow women.
Yeah. And how long have you been doing the business coaching?
I have been doing business coaching behind the scenes for many years. However, I just launched my company mid last year.
Right. Okay. And does that change the way you work with people?
In what way?
Because you were a life coach before. Is life coach a broader concept for you in the way you were working? So people, I imagine a life coach or a business coach is still has the purpose of empowering women. Yeah. And so I'm wondering how different is your work now as the business? Is it that you're more targeted in the goals for women now?
It's not very much so different because my approach is still the same. My golden rules stay the same. I'm very honest. I'm honest in business. I'm honest in life coach. I really sincerely want to help. I want to help as a life coach. I want to help as a consultant, and I make it be known. So as a business consultant, I do turn away more business than I would a person in life coaching, because I'm goal driven. So if you're not willing to make the steps in business to be successful, I cannot work with you, because then I won't be honest to myself to tell you that we can make it work. And I know without you taking the actions, you won't get the success or result you're looking for. So that's the only difference. I find myself saying no more to business than I would say in life coaching, but my concept is still the same. I still keep those honesty, the core value to who I am.
Yeah. Oh, that's very interesting to hear, because I do imagine that the principles of coaching would be the same. Like, people are trying to be their best, become their best. Yeah. And as a coach, because it's kind of like what I do as well. I'm a psychologist, And of course, you know, you work in coaching people, and so it's taking them to where they would like to be in their lives. And so I think, as you said, the principles are the same. They're the same. You just redirect them to where the person wants to go. And if you're now branded as a business coach, there's already a headlight to let people know what the target is if they go and see you, what the focus would be. Well, that's terrific. And if I can just ask you the question then of the topic today, Alicia, who inspires you? Where do you draw your inspiration from?
Who inspires me? My son. My son. Yeah.
Wow.
He is a big part of everything I do, the reason why I do it, and especially how I do it. He has a pureness about him. He's just so light. Nothing concerns him. He doesn't worry. He asks a lot of questions. So I always look to him to stay humble, to remember how simple life can be. Because as an adult, you have so much things going on. You want to be successful in your personal life. You want to be successful in your professional life. And to become successful, it takes a lot of challenging situations to overcome. But I have my little baby beside me, and when he holds me, everything melts away, and I'm able to have a fresh perspective on life all over again. So he's my inspiration.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I resonate with that as a mother as well. The children can provide enormous inspiration. They can be the reason that you get up in the morning on the days that you wouldn't otherwise, you know, when life can take you right down. And I really don't want to get up today and face the world. When they're little especially, you actually get no choice. Yeah. So if I can move to Vin then, and Vin, love to hear who inspires you.
Well, when this question first came up, you know what I'm going to say. The first thing I did was looked up the definition of the word. Hi, Bronwyn. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Bron. Hey.
And so, because the word gets used a lot, and when we use words a lot, they get sort of moved around in different contexts, and we often lose the actual definition of the word. And I always love to go to the etymology to see like the Latin origins or the German origins or French or whatever to get, the actual true meaning rather than one that's the way that it's been used more recently. So if I may, just by starting off with that definition, then according to my dictionary, the word originally came from Middle English inspire, or from the Old French inspire, or from Latin inspirare, meaning to breathe or to blow into. And in fact, we still use that as the second definition of the word inspire, as in breathing. So, to breathe into, to breathe ideas into, or to breathe life into. And I thought,
yes.
Oh, that's a pretty good one. Impart a truth or an idea to someone to generate creativity and inspiration. It sort of fits with that. So I thought about it, and I'll just let Bronwyn in here.
Welcome, Michael.
Good morning.
Hey, Bronwyn.
I'll just jack my chair up a bit.
You're having a good hair day today.
I am.
So, Alicia, this is a joke between the three, Vin and Bron and myself. Last blab, Bronwyn came in with a scarf over her head, and the reason was having a bad hair day.
I've actually pinned it up today.
Oh, lovely.
Vin, really interested to hear what you're saying. Keep on going. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's
not so sorry because we've got Bron in now.
That's right.
Thank
It's
you.
the nature of a blab, so that's perfectly okay. No, I was just thinking about who inspires me, and I had to really think about it, because at first I thought, well, I don't have any thought leaders or anyone really that I follow. I don't follow any of the inspirational speakers really. But when I thought a bit deeper about it, I realized my big inspiration is Bach and the music that he created. I play it so often. It's my most played music in my whole collection, and my collection is very big. And I like a lot of different styles of music, but I would have to say that Bach and maybe Paganini as well. And I'll speak a little bit about those. Well, Paganini, he's a really rebellious sort of character, and he was. People thought he made a pact with the devil or something, because his music was so different and so vibrant, and he really invigorates me, and I feel very creative after listening to Paganini. So, as a musician, I use both of those sources as a direct source for my musical inspiration, but it also inspires a peaceful nature in me. So I put Bach and Paganini at the top of my list. But, I have a lot of inspirations, and the more I thought about it, I realized, well, the Tao Te Ching is right deep in at my central core of my being. The way I go about my life is sort of abiding to the principles of the Tao Te Ching. And so Lao Tzu, well, he may even be a fictional author, but he is said to be the author of the Tao Te Ching, and so he would be another person who inspires me. But I have a lot more, but I'll just hold off, because otherwise it'll just be all me rattling off all my inspirations. But those are some of them, and I find that all of my sources generally are over 100 years old. They're not current thought leaders.
Well, thank you for that. So, it's interesting that from what we've heard so far, we haven't had the out there heroes in our world, the people that have been put on a pedestal. Isn't that interesting? And yet, a lot of our world focuses on those people. And I haven't heard mention of that yet as them being the sources of inspiration. But let's hear from Bron. Who inspires you, Bron?
So I don't have a religious bone in my body, but Jesus Christ, I reckon he was a pretty awesome guy. Like as a holy prophet who just did some amazing things. It's interesting, actually, listening to you, Vincent. I was not surprised either when you said Bach. In fact, it just felt like, of course, yes. But Jesus Christ, for me, knowing of some of the humanity work that he did, I hadn't realised how much he has influenced my life. And I talk about, for me, Jesus Christ was a bloke. He was a fellow who walked the earth. He did some pretty amazing things. Not all of it was probably captured. Like some of the shit things that he did probably weren't quite captured. Like he was a human. So that, I guess his philosophies have had a greater impact on me than I realised. And I guess the topic, when I think about spiritual conversations and who inspired me, I don't even think of any of the thought leaders, global speakers in current day thinking, because they haven't inspired me.
Yeah, well, I thought of Mahatma Gandhi, and I thought, yeah, he's a guy. Isn't he like an inspirational character?
Cool.
But I thought, well, I've never read any of his work. I can't really claim him as an inspiration for me. I mean, he inspires a lot of other people, but he's a great man and all that, but he's not really inspired me, unfortunately. I mean, I should read more of his work, or some of his work.
But I guess that's what it comes down to, doesn't it? Is actually, I mean, for me, this is what I'm reflecting on who has inspired me, and Jesus Christ, absolutely first and foremost, and Buddha. The Buddhist studies that I've done, the teachings, the readings, have influenced my lifestyle. So when I look at those two holy prophets, and Satchinanda, Swami Satchinanda. That's where I have drawn inspiration and motivation and deep examining to then look at how that can influence my thoughts, feelings, and behaviours. So, sounds like we're all pretty deep here. I love the question.
We'll capture the image, and we'll all be looking very, very deep and gloomy. It captures an image at a particular point in time, and sometimes I think, oh my goodness, when you see it.
Deep question.
Yeah, well, yeah.
With spiritual conversations, if spiritual conversations weren't the first part of the topic, who inspires you? I think that would then open up a different level of reflection. But for me, that one just went straight into the core.
Well, yeah, and I am on the same wavelength as you there, Bron, as well. Like, Jesus Christ has been very central in my life. But the people who have written as well, and the people who have walked the earth in long ago, and I just happened to gather a few of my little Bibles. And this is one that I have, and you can tell by the tags in it. And this is The Inner Voice of Love.
Beautiful.
By Henri the French. Oh no, it's like a French name. I keep getting confused. He's Danish.
Nouwen.
Henri Nouwen. So he was a Catholic priest, and he was also a psychologist who worked a lot with disabled people in the United States. Alicia, you might know the group Larch.
No.
Disabled people.
No, I have no idea who they are.
Is that an acronym or is it AR?
No, L''ARCHE. It's like Vinnie's. It's an NGO. It's a group that helps people who are disabled. So he worked a lot in his life it says here in Canada actually, but he also worked in the United States. And he died in 1996. But I just treasure this little book. It is like a little Bible to me. And they're just one-page essays.
Nice.
It's not a long book, you can see it's not big. It's just 1 to 2 pages of, let me just read one and I'll give you a taste of it. And many of them do feature God. Oh, we've lost Bron there. Okay.
No, I'm here.
Oh, no, we lost Alicia.
Yeah.
Sorry, I looked up and you're in the wrong box. Thank you. So this one says, set boundaries to your love. And to me, that's beautiful. That's the title. And then, he says, when people show you their boundaries, I can't do this for you, you feel rejected. It talks to the person, to the reader. You cannot accept the fact that others are unable to do for you all that you expect from them. You desire boundless love, boundless care, boundless giving. Part of your struggle is to set boundaries to your own love, something you've never done. I mean, this just talks to me.
Oh, I need that, Marg. I've got a daughter who would greatly benefit from this reading.
And they're only single pages. It's not lengthy readings. That's what I love about it. I can just read, with.
Tell me the title again.
The Inner Voice of Love. So it says, part of your struggle is to set boundaries to your own love, something you've never done. You give whatever people ask of you. Yes. I'm thinking of your daughter, Bronwyn. When they ask for more, you give more. Might have taking after mum, hey? Until you find yourself exhausted, used and manipulated. Only when you are able to set your own boundaries will you be able to acknowledge, respect, and even be grateful for the boundaries of others. In the presence of the people you love, your needs grow and grow until those people are so overwhelmed by your needs that they are practically forced to leave you for their own survival. The great task is to claim yourself for yourself so that you can contain your needs with the boundaries of yourself and hold them in the presence of those you love. True mutuality in love requires people who possess themselves and who can give to each other while holding on to their own identities. So in order both to give more effectively and to be more self-contained with your needs, you must learn to set boundaries to your love. So
Beautiful.
that's just one, this book's filled with single readings like that. And he was both a priest and a psychologist, and I think the wisdom just shines through. So that's been, one source of mine. I just must say my other little Bible.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Khalil Gibran. Beautiful. So, that's just a taste of mine, but I suppose at the core of that is a spirituality that is invested now in me as a spirit and the greater spirit within me and without. And I appreciated your defining the word inspiration, Vin, because I went back to my Latin days, which I didn't really enjoy, but they come in handy sometimes.
I'm always surprised when people say, "Oh, I learned Latin at school. What a waste of time that was!" As if anyone thought that was going to be useful. And I think, "Whoa, what do you mean? I wish I had have learned Latin because I'm always coming up against that. It's maybe a little bit of a segue to something else that I've got here on my desk, but it's here. Look, when you just pulled up your book, I just thought, what have I got on my desk? And I thought, I didn't prepare any of this, but completely coincidentally, I have a book of inspirational quotes sitting right in front of me on my desk, which I opened at random, the one I read is really great, and I'll read it to you in a second. But another one is this one, which is just sitting on my desk. It's the Ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead. And it is a huge inspiration on me, but in a strange way. It's not like the actual words, the translations, the knowledge, the wisdom or anything. It's just in a much deeper sort of linguistic way. I love the pictorial nature of the language, as I do with Chinese and Japanese and other things as well. So, there's when we talk about Latin and the origin of words, for me, the Latin is like the hieroglyphs. It's like the pictorial element that we don't have with English. When a child sees a word for the first time in China, they're able to understand what the meaning of the word is before anyone's even told them what it means, how it's pronounced, or anything. Where in English, we sort of just take it on the word of the teacher. Oh, that word means that. Okay, well, I'll just believe you, I suppose. But Latin allows us to sort of drill down and go, oh yeah, okay, now I know what the meaning of that word is without anyone having to tell me. So for me, and hieroglyphs in ancient Egyptian and the kanji or the language of the written language of the Chinese and Japanese are very much the same. That the actual meaning is contained within the word, and I really envy the people who have that kind of language as their natural language, because I always felt uneasy with just someone telling me the definition of a word and going, oh, okay, righto, I'll take that as face value, when really we should be able to understand the wording, the meaning of the word from the word itself. So that's why I love ancient Egyptian language so much. And why I'm really keen on the Latin origins and the etymology of English, because it's, as I said, it's our only sort of connection to the meaning. But if I may, I would love to just read out one of these quotes because it actually ties in. It's by John Rockefeller, but it's very much like the quote from Paganini. He said, "Genius is in perseverance," and I think that's so true. And I that's like my favorite saying of all, and it's one of the reasons why Paganini is a source of inspiration for me. But this one by John Rockefeller pretty much says a similar thing. He says, "I do not think there is any other quality so essential to success of any kind as the quality of perseverance. It overcomes almost everything, even nature." So, yeah, I'm not sure about taking over nature. That seems a bit strange, but
that's a bit. But, that jarred me, that one.
Yeah, well, it's so. Like I said, I just opened that at random, and it was completely coincidental that this book of inspirational quotes was actually right in front of me here on my desk.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I do love the word inspiration because, the Latin or the Greek, and inspire is, in spirit. And so what talks to your spirit, I suppose, is another way that I would interpret the question of who inspires you.
Tying it back to spiritual conversations.
Yeah.
And I've lost my train of thought there.
Well, if I can jump in then and throw in another one of my inspirations is because you said right at the offset there, you said who inspires you or what inspires you, and I thought, well, if it's broader, then I do have right. Because I thought, well, artwork, and then I thought of the artists who I admire, and I really couldn't think of any, to be honest. But I am inspired by a certain art when I see it, and it needn't be any famous artist. But when I thought about imagery more broadly than just paintings or art, I realized, of course, mandalas are a massive, or sacred geometry, or I originally actually thought of Robert Fludd, who was an alchemist in the 17th century, who is a really big inspiration for me, because he created some. Well, in that era, there was a lot of people doing this. John Dee's another one where they would create almost magical drawings, which were sort of diagrams of deep philosophical ideas and concepts, and I loved the idea of being able to express such complex philosophies and concepts within a piece of a drawing. A single drawing can contain so much, and because I really love symbolism, so when I see these things being symbolized, some of the alchemical processes drawn in illustrations, they're so metaphorical and so deep that they I could look at them for ages. And there's one particular one by Robert Fludd which it's very personal and very deep, but it's essentially around mandala. And when I look at mandalas from Eastern traditions, like Buddhism, it's you can see a similarity in there. And I recently read, I wish I had actually grabbed the source of this quote, but I've since not been able to find it. But I read a few months ago that talking about neuroplasticity and how behavior and thoughts can physically change our brain for the better or for the worse. And this person sort of expanded on that and said, well, if we look at artwork or mandalas or imagery that contains harmonic proportions that is pleasing and soul satisfying, that actually improves our well-being and changes our brain to think in a more harmonious, peaceful, loving way, simply by staring at pictures, or in other words, meditating on mandalas. And so I love creating mandalas and staring at them and sort of meditating on them. And you can personalize them so much that way and make them very significant to yourself. And so that, for me, is a great source of inspiration.
I'm quite delighted at this movement that's sweeping across the planet around the meditative colouring in books.
Yes.
Adult colouring in books.
Yes.
And
yes.
I've seen some beautiful ones that actually are mandalas. And I just think, how beautiful is it now that I feel like we are starting, you know, as a global community, to start to get a sense of return to symbology and the sacredness of it. And in very modern day ways, to actually have the adult colouring in books on the newsstand beside the little ones colouring in books. I think we've come a long way. 20 years ago, we didn't have, you know, television shows that talked about spirituality. We didn't have access to resources that spoke to the heart of, you know, the return to what matters most. And here we are now. It's just, it feels like we've just got this access at our fingertips now, haven't we?
Yeah. And
yet...
Yeah, we've got too much. We need limits. We need to
boundaries. Boundaries came up in my self-care cards on Monday, Mark. So I loved that reading, by the way.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'd never thought of it in the way that Margaret was speaking. Then when you were reading that, limits and boundaries are absolutely necessary.
Crucial.
And in this world, as you say, Brahman, we've got everything we want, and it's just time and creating your own focus and going deep on the things that are important rather than being scattered and trying to take it all in through fear of missing out syndrome or whatever you want to call it. You know, it affects us all. And I'm very much like that. I'm a hoarder. So when it comes to information, I want to hoard that as well. And I can't, you know, because
it's creating the balance, isn't it? To have the boundaries. We need to have boundaries, solid boundaries and limits. We also need to then have the balance of the fairness and the nurturing.
Yeah.
So to be, you know, and to finding, for me, I'm constantly having to redefine what that balance looks like on a daily basis to work with, you know, the world I live in.
Yeah. When talking about the colouring in books, it takes me back to the school setting. That's where you normally would see colouring in books. And it is wonderful that it's appearing at the older age end now. And with our school system, though, we seem to want to clear out any of the creative artistic ability or talent and shove in its place the 3 R's, you know, the science and the reading and the maths and the outcomes in those subjects are paramount, and that's what drives a person's future, and that's what can define their future. And all the time, their creativity is just stifled and
stomped on. Yes,
out of them. And
that was my story, Mark.
Sad. So, hey,
that was my story. Year 11, I can still remember actually completing my subject selection, and I was in a Catholic school where there was meant to be this spiritual nourishment, and I was an artist. I knew it then. I grew up with this amazing woman, my mother, who I think would have to be the most creative, resourceful woman on the planet. So she had just imbued all of this creative inspiration into me. So I felt like I was genetically wired for it. And I can remember year 11, my subject selection completing that, art was my major. And I have this sense now of even walking past our art room and just thinking, oh God, I'll be allowed in there now, like into the sacred sanctity of the art room. And I got hauled up to the office and told that I wasn't allowed to do art. I was a secretary. I had to do business administration and biology.
Oh my God.
Crossed my heart. So I vomited in biology. I could not stand to see animals being dissected, and that was
Oh my goodness.
And I didn't get expelled, but I was kindly asked to leave as soon as I got a job. Yeah, so it for me, the squashing of that creative energy, it was like a crushing of my soul.
Wow.
So that I knew it back then that I needed to be able to creatively express to nourish my inspiration, and it just got shut down.
Wow.
Yeah, interesting stuff, isn't it?
Something similar happened to my brother. Again, brought up by the nuns and the priests and the brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it's particularly that setting, because I think it was in all schools where they had the vocational guidance. And so my brother rocked up for vocational guidance, and he wanted to be, I don't know, maybe an architect. He wanted to make buildings or something. And he was told, no, Pat, you'll be a fireman.
Off you go to fireman school.
So you need to take different subjects. Well, Pat is the most creative person, and he's a very deep person, very thoughtful, very in his own way, inspirational. But I just see that was such a spirit that was just stomped on.
Crushed. Yeah.
If he was in primary school, he would have gone, yeah, fireman. That's like second best the racing car driving.
That's right.
And that's the other point of what I was wanting to get to when we're talking about schools, because we do say to kids, so what do you want to be when you grow up? And so they think of the people, the idols sort of thing, the fireman, or I want to be Mr. Bieber, whoever it is.
For me, it was Evel Knievel. I wanted to be a stuntman. It's true. For years, I just wanted to be a stuntman, just like Evel Knievel.
But I heard a beautiful twist on that question. Not so long ago, that it's the question, if we want to nurture children's spirits and be able to coach them in their spiritual yearnings, the question is more, what sort of person would you like to become?
That's beautiful.
Isn't it lovely? And so I just, every time I think of a child now and I go to ask, what do you want to be when you leave school, I stop myself, because it's almost automatic. It's like, g'day, and
That's
if
right.
they're in high school, what do you want to be? So, what sort of person would you like to become?
I had a really beautiful... So I had a client recently ask me if I would do some guidance, counselling, coaching with her Year 12 son, and I haven't done anything like that for years. And I said to her, look, I don't know, I've got my OCA card, and I've worked. I was a youth worker and I've worked with youth, but it's been a long time. And she said, Bronwyn, I'm desperate, please. She said, I'm happy to come with him. Like, I just need someone to be able to hear where he's at, because she said I can't get through. So they came. I agreed. Came last week, and she said he's got no goals. But the most beautiful. This is in front of him. She's the most beautiful thing that she said to him, this lovely 17-year-old son of hers, is she said, you know what, mate? She said, I love who you are. The person you are is everything I would want you to be. I just want you to get a sense of having some goals and direction. It was amazing. I just watched this young man just kind of go, it was like watching someone fertilise a plant.
Wow.
He just went,
beautiful.
Yeah, right. It was gorgeous. Yeah.
I was just going to say, as Margaret, as Margaret was saying, what do you want to become? I remember being asked that question. Actually, no, I remember my mum saying, oh, you're going to be such a wonderful man when you grow up, or a wonderful person. And I just thought, what? Adults tend to think of children as potential adults rather than human beings in their own right. Yeah, and rather than what I wanted to be, I'd rather talk about what I am and what I like, and what's relevant to me now. Because as a young child, you can't think about what you're going to be as an adult. It's just it's too unrealistic, and it's too far away, and you haven't had enough experience with the world or the life to understand any of that, and you're generally not thinking in terms of time. When you're that age, you're thinking of just the here and the now. So I was actually quite offended as a very young person to have someone tell me what I'm going to be in the future, even though it's very positive. I just thought, yeah, well, you know, appreciate who I am now.
Yeah, and I can understand why it would set off that.
Yes, but I actually think that question is applicable to, and it did come from an adult setting. It's someone who was doing, you know, preparation for marriage. It came out of that context, the coaching people to go into marriage that sometimes happens. And so it was, what sort of person, so these are adults, what sort of person would you like to become? And I can ask that of myself as well.
Yeah.
It's applicable to people at any age.
Excuse me.
And, what sort of person do I want to become? Yeah, well, I still have, you know, the ambition and I still want to be able to do some of that voluntary work abroad. You know? I do want to become, you know, I still have that Mother Teresa sitting as my inspiration.
I like that question, Mark.
Yeah, so, it's not a put down, but I love, I hear where you're coming from, Ben, and I love your take as well, Bron, or that example that you gave, that you can actually start with, I love the person you are right now. And what are the goals? What sort of person would you like to become? Hearing from your perspective, I love who you are. You've got some, you know, you've got some beautiful attributes. Yeah, what's going on for you as to your own goals for yourself? What sort of person would you like to become? And then I think that sets a great basis for coaching, because
I think
an idea of where they want to be, or who, you know, what sort of person they'd like to become. Okay, what do we need to put in place to nurture that within you, or to if you don't feel it's part of you now, to, you know, what self-development courses would be useful to take, or whatever it is. Skill development.
I think it also, Marg, it also opens up the opportunity, which I was thinking about this. I think it was, well, one of you was speaking. It might have been you, Vincent. No, it was you, Marg. I think what we haven't touched on in this conversation yet is on topic, spiritual conversations. What inspires you? My higher self inspires me now. And I say that with depth and meaning, not with any, you know, new age woo-woo. Having learned to actually better understand the fullness of me, my higher self, my greater consciousness inspires me on a daily basis to be reflecting, to be examining. Am I in this moment being the best I can be? And always endeavouring now to be kind to myself, because that was not my default. So that has become fuel, inspirational fuel for me.
You know, I had the same thought when the question came up and I first bounced off it. I thought, well, I don't need anyone else to inspire me. I'm my own inspiration. I thought, geez, how arrogant. That's no good. I can't say that. But
well,
you know, there is an element of truth to it. You know, that
in context, Vincent. Yes.
Yeah. And so when, you know, we've talked about where I've mentioned in the previous Blads that how it's only when I lay in bed at night that it feels like my sensible self steps in and says, now, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, and I wake up in the morning, my dumb self steps back in and goes, all right, now, forget all that stuff. Let's just do what we always do, you know. And so, yeah, I am conscious of the value of listening to my higher self and connecting with that and you know, taking the value from it rather than sort of just flipping between the two. It's a bit of a dichotomy, or can be.
Well, yeah, it absolutely can be. But I think for me, with age has come wisdom, and I have learned that I'm no longer on the external quest or search to find who can fix me or fill me or nourish me or guide me or direct me. It's my internal higher self that I turn to first now. that's where I do find a safer place to be able to reflect and then look for, well, what is the motivation or the inspiration or the what is it that I need? That's where my answers come from. And that then inspires me to look. Or music. I will unconsciously reach for mood-based music to then either motivate me, inspire me, or just nourish me.
Yeah, the Tao Te Ching is getting back to that as my source of inspiration. The reason why is very much like what you're saying there, Brahman, that it's your core, that there's something very, very comforting to know that who you are is deeply rooted in your core, and nothing can really change that. And there's no need to fear losing that because it's always there, and you can always tap into that core resource, which is you. And it's very comforting and satisfying to know that, you know, I love myself, and that I can really find comfort in that.
Absolutely. The relief that comes for me now, having spent most of my life not knowing myself, not loving myself, and not feeling safe, let alone comfortable in having time with myself, the relief is phenomenal. Yet there's also a sense of it's not just yearning. It's a I just want to hang out with me. This sense of. And it's not a withdrawal. It's not an avoidance. It's simply you get it?
Yeah. There seems to be less and less time to do that, though, these days. As we were saying before, we've got so much at our fingertips. We want to sort of soak it all in, and you know, in doing so, we're going to sort of be spending less time with ourselves, in a sense.
Well, unless we do and that reflection for me on Monday about boundaries was really important. Hearing that reading again here today, Mark, has reminded me, because my personal boundaries are much, much better now, well, probably the best they have ever been. And yet I find some of my loved ones aren't yet so good at that.
Yeah.
and there's some of that push-pull of, can you just get out of my space, because I just want to be with me. I just want to hang out with me.
Yeah. And I don't think that we have to be caught up with everything that is at our fingertips at all. I think that's a personal choice. I get a good amount of me time, and there are times where it's unavoidable, but that's life, you know. You go with the flow. You know, sometimes we have a very busy house and people coming and going, big family and all of that, and that's fine. But there are other times I can just take myself away from that and hang out at the beach, and it's just me and the dogs.
Yeah.
Sometimes beautiful Brahman.
Yes, we must make that date.
It's lovely. So I feel that I am much better at allowing myself the time that energizes me, because I can be de-energized by hanging out and doing all the things I have to do, or hanging out where I have to hang out. If it's a have to all the time, and my work is talk, networking, meetings, that's talk, everything's talk, you're producing. And, you know, to become energized, I need to withdraw. Other people are different, you know. It's like the introvert, extrovert. Some extroverts.
Is that the omnivert? Is it the omnivert that has can go out there? Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, the extrovert is energized, and so my husband and I are quite the opposite. He's energized by people all the time, and he's de-energized by too much alone time. So people are different, and to know yourself, I think, is
to know the
gold.
Universe.
Yeah.
To quote the Upanishads, to know yourself is to know the universe.
To know thyself is to know thy universe. Yes.
So at 9 a.m.
I've got to go. Yep.
I'm looking to wind up, if that's okay. A beautiful quote, the very well known from Socrates: "The unreflected life is not worth living. And you referred to daily reflection or being reflective, well, both of you have, Ron, and in your own ways. So I would totally agree. Otherwise, if we're not reflective of our lives, we're pretty well the opposite, as I see it, is we're on auto. We're
unconscious.
Yeah. So, and I can't help but just...
Oh.
Wow.
And then
Oh, how exciting.
it's ready for publishing, and I
Oh,
am going to be good to myself this year, and I am going to make sure it's published, because I did.
beautiful.
It was finished, but I just had to. We're on inspiration, and this is my it's time to live. Little words that make a difference. And what's today's date? The 29th. The 29th of January, and in Australia anyway. Okay, the quote, and these are all my own quotes pretty well. I take responsibility for my life, including my health, rather than relying on others.
Good one.
Beautiful.
And the book it has some lines, as you can see, for people to write their own reflections from that. I call it a participatory journal. And
Yeah.
I've drawn from that quote myself, and people can think in with that if they want, some, call to action or more reflective questions to that. Do I rely on the doctor to fix me? What am I doing towards my own health and well-being? Am I attending to issues of nutrition, exercise, breathing, emotional experiences, and my self-beliefs?
Beautiful.
So, yeah.
Congratulations, Marg. That's awesome. Well done.
I will just love to see it published, and thanks for that, allowing me a little indulgence there.
No, not at all.
You're blab. Well done. I got to go. Thanks so much. It was lovely to see you again.
Thanks again.
See you, Bronwyn.
Lots of love. Bye.
Ta-da. Okay, I'll pause.